Yo people, what's up? Welcome to VR Sunday, and today we're gonna look at Project Cars 2. So this week actually I've been talking about the state of VR and about AAA games regarding VR, and this was one of the AAA games I mentioned, and so I thought we should check it out, right? I have to say I am not the best race car driver. That's just no. I'm not. But I still wanted to take a look at it because this is one of the most costly VR games I've ever bought. And it makes kind of sense. It is a AAA game and apparently it's quite big and it has a lot of cars in it from you to choose from. So that is one of the aspects that makes this game a AAA game, the sheer size of it. But I also wanted to take a look if it's worth it, just from the play style, the graphics, just a basic overview. But yeah, don't expect me to perform miracles on the gameplay wise. But I don't think I will judge it negatively just because I fail at it. I mean, come on. That would be stupid if you would do something like that. Alright, also another thing, this is post-commentary because I noticed quite quickly that while commentating during the gameplay is interesting, since I try to concentrate as much as I can, I sat there for a long time in silence, and therefore I thought it would be better to do this post-commentary and just show you the more interesting bits and talk a bit about the game's mechanics, how it feels to play. So, first off, I'm gonna jump right into career mode, which is kind of the story mode, I suppose.
Your career begins here. Enter your driver's details including name, initials, and nationality.
You can create several drivers, so you're not reduced to one career at the time. You can have several. If you choose a new driver, you'll have to enter some of your details. Of course, well, this is just for display purposes, but yeah. And next up, you're gonna choose the league you're racing in.
Every motorsport hero needs to start somewhere. Where will you begin? This is where you'll need to decide whether you want to begin at the very bottom in karts and race your way up through the tiers to the very pinnacle of motorsports in Tier 1.
There's a whole bunch of different leagues, and they're sorted by difficulty level, I suppose, or car level. So in the first one there's like this Formula Kart, I think it's called, which is like with small, almost go-kart kind of type racers, and there's a whole bunch of different things, of course. Some of them are locked. I presume you have to unlock them by being good at some of the other leagues. And there's a whole bunch of different cars, of course, in this game. There's very generic, normal cars, Ford Mustang or stuff like that, just normal street cars. Then there's the more special cars, I would say. I really don't know how you would call all of these. There's like touring cars, there's Formula 1, there's a whole bunch of different like tiers of cars, almost. And so you can choose basically what you're feeling like, what kind of race you want to do. And I'm going for the Formula Kart, or the Kart 1 right now. And that's kind of cool, you see this little sequence, what this thing is about, which is kind of nice. Also, this is, for me, this is one of the, things of a big game, that there's, cutscenes and stuff.
Your motorsport, it's time to decide which series you'll start your career in. The series structure varies according to which motorsport you chose. Some offer multiple starting points, others have a single one, while others will offer just a single series by itself.
And now I will have to decide which series I want to play. So apparently in some of these driver classes there's several series you can play. So right now I have two available, which will be the UK Championship and the Slightly Mad Studios Championship. And once I've completed one of those, I'll unlock the World Championship. So right now both series have four races rather, you can compete in. And after that you'll unlock the world stage.
Now that you've chosen your car, it's time to choose your livery. The livery you choose will also determine which team you'll be racing for.
Also, now you'll have to choose your car, your brand, so to speak, which is kind of nice. So there's like several pre-selected car brands. I would like to create my own, technically speaking, but that's fine too. I mean, there's a big selection, and as far as I have seen, it doesn't really make a difference which one you choose, at least in this mode.
The final step to launching your motorsport career is this: your first contract. If you're happy with your selections, go ahead and sign. Once you do that, your ultimate driver journey is all set to begin. The career dashboard is the main hub for managing your career. Under the Home tab is everything related to the current course series you're participating in. Here, you'll be able to head onto the track for each round, view the event calendar, check emails from your team and others, view your series standings, and read news headlines from your prior races.
Here is the race overview. You see you have a calendar which shows you when the races are and what track they're on, and then you see the track themselves. You have emails, which will be like messages from your team. Also, you have the standings down below, which will be your points overall in this cup, so to speak, and all the other guys' points, of course.
You're about to enter. Here you can configure which sessions you want to participate in, as well as their length. Once you're ready, hit start and get out onto the track.
So here, this is kind of interesting. You can select how many laps you would like to drive. I guess this is if you want to go for really long races, you can pump this up to 10 laps, at least in this mode right here. You could also put it down to like 4 laps or something like that. It's kind of customizable, which I really like. So I will go for 5 laps. And here you have, again, a bit more details about what this race is about, the length, the amount of turns. And also there's a kind of leaderboard down there, which shows you the world record for this circuit, which is 36 seconds at the moment, which is crazy. Your friend's best time and your personal best. I really like that, you know, a bit of competition between you and your friends, which is nice.
The moment has finally arrived. Your very first career race. Before the race starts, take a moment to make any final adjustments to your vehicle setup, change tyres, and finalise any pit strategies. When you're ready, take a deep breath and get onto the track. And good luck out there.
Alright, so here is like the pre-race setup. So here you have the last few options you can go through. There's tuning setup, which lets you change some little details about your car. And I have to be honest, at first I thought this is a menu I will never ever use, because fine-tuning engines and stuff, that's just not something I can do. That's just too hard for me. I don't get into the technical details that much. But I tried to open it up anyway, and it came up with basically this, which is kind of a questionnaire about what is wrong with your car and how would you like it to be. And that is exactly what I want from a thing like that. Because this is basically the way for non-car savvy people to actually get some customization going. I think it's really well done. And there is another menu where I assume you can fine-tune it yourself. I have not touched that menu at all because it looks scary and intimidating as hell. Then there's pit strategies, which I think comes into play in the more longer races where you actually have to go into the pit and change tires and stuff. So I cannot really show you that at the moment. But let's focus on the race now and see how I fail. So, first of all, before you do a race, check your controller setup. That's something that happened immediately right here. It somehow completely disregarded all my controller setup, so I have to put that in again. But, yeah, there we go. These things behave quite interestingly. Basically, if you brake too hard or you turn too hard on the turns here, you'll spin out of control quite quickly. So you have to be very careful how you drive with these things. Although they're very interesting, I have to say. As I said, they behave kind of like go-karts, I assume. And That's the thing I noticed about most of this game, actually. The cars, they each car reacts very different from another, and you have to actually learn how to drive with each car. At least it feels like that, and that's kind of cool. It's not an arcade racer by any means, so you actually have to be quite good to be have any chance at these races, as you can see watching me. But that makes it fun, in my opinion. That you can actually like focus on one class of car and then just go for that, at least for the start. That really is interesting. And I have seen some people calling this game the Dark Souls of racing games. I wouldn't say that. It's just a difficult racing game, yes. It's not unforgiving. You can learn it. And I think if you get a little bit of practice, you should be actually all right. I mean, you have to learn how to drive with certain cars, and there's some tracks I would recommend getting some practice on. But all in all, I wouldn't call this Dark Souls. I would call it difficult, yes, indeed. I mean, you can see, this is like one of my first races with this class of car, and it's terrible. But I did actually better later on. I actually managed to secure, I think, 3rd place in my 2nd or 3rd race. I'm not quite sure, actually. I think it was my 3rd race. And somehow it went really well. The course was exactly how I would like it, and I started to gain some momentum, so to speak, you know. It was really cool. Also, one very interesting aspect of the game. There's some like almost rules to racing. Who would have thought? But the thing is, if you like smash too hard into the boundaries or into another car, it will say your lap time is invalid. So basically, for high score purposes, it basically tries to prevent you from doing some like janky stuff with the boundaries and stuff, so you don't get huge insane times by just abusing like other cars and smashing into them. Also, there's this thing, sometimes if you try to take over a car and like crash into it and basically push it out of the way, there's like race control, and they will tell you, hey, you cannot do that, go back to let's say you were on the 11th place 11, and you crashed into the car at number 10 and took him over, and then race control was yeah, go back to position 11, and then you can reassume the race. So that's kind of interesting. You cannot drive too recklessly, although I'm not quite sure how this ruling exactly works, because sometimes I really crashed into people and just basically drove them off the road, and race control didn't say anything. So not quite sure what the parameters for that are, what you need to do that they penalize you, basically. Also, a very interesting aspect is if you're driving and you actually score like a personal best on a certain race or a certain part of the circuit, there's like a voice over the comms that will notify you of that, which I think is really cool. It's kind of like motivating. If you hear something, I assume it's like your crew telling you, yeah, that was the best lap so far, good job, keep it going. And it adds kind of to a realism, I guess, because in a real race you would of course have your team in your ear at sometimes, you know, telling you certain stuff. Also, sometimes they will inform you about different things, like changing weather, or if it's the last lap, they'll give you like some good advice, like, yeah, you're in 3rd place, try to hold that, or, oh, you're in 4th place, try to take that guy over and we'll be on the podium, right? So that's kind of cool. I really like that. Again, it adds to the realism. And speaking of realism and maybe also graphics, you'll see in the footage the graphics are pretty good. And the interesting part is, after reviewing the footage, it's very interesting. The HUD that you'll see right now, for you it's very clear actually. for me, while racing, I had some problems reading certain parts of the HUD, basically. Especially like the one in the top left, where it tells you at which position you are and like how many laps there are still. That's something I couldn't read very well. So, but that's not necessarily a problem with the game. I had that in other VR games as well, that there is like a problem with certain like fonts. I cannot really read them, but other than that, it was really enjoyable, the visuals and all. And later I'll show you some more footage about with visuals when you're in different cars and with different weather conditions, which is very interesting indeed. So yeah, you'll see here, this is my last race actually in the kart category, and I managed to score, which puts me actually on the podium. I'm actually third now for the league. I managed to actually win something, which is kind of cool. And it unlocked the World's Championship, which I'll probably try next. And I have to say, really enjoyable. Even though I didn't win, it was enjoyable for me. As I said, I'm not a good driver. I don't really play racing games, but this was an enjoyable experience for me. And the thing is, after I finished this, I think it was about 1 hour of driving in that Kart 1 Circuit Championship, I suddenly noticed I don't become motion sick. There was no sign of motion sickness. None. Which was amazing in my opinion, because in other games when I drive around or fly around, I get motion sick so easily, like in 5-10 minutes. And here, after an hour, no motion sickness whatsoever. And I'm really impressed. I don't know how exactly they did that, what they need to do so that motion sickness does not happen, but it is amazing to see that it's actually possible to do a racing game where you just sit and you drive around, something moves, and you don't get motion sick. I really have to applaud them for this. Well done. Also motivates me to actually play more of this, because, for example, for Toy Plane Heroes, I stopped playing it because basically it really makes me motion sick, and the motion sickness lingers on for a few hours. So basically whenever I play Toy Plane Heroes, I have a half hour of fun and then it ruins like the next 2-3 hours for me. So that doesn't happen with this game. Really good. Well done. So now we're gonna jump into some custom races, just for the purpose of showing you the different kind of cars. So this is like a super beefed up race car. I'm sorry if I don't get any of the brand names and stuff, because cars are nothing that interest me too greatly. I like racing in this kind of environment. I really find it very enjoyable, but yeah, I don't care what car I'm actually using. Here you can very well see the effects of weather, actually, or at least the sunny weather. It's really interesting, you know, these sun rays you see through the window, and I have to say, at one point, it actually almost blinded me, the sun. I was like racing around, and then suddenly the sun shone into my front window, and it felt like it was blinding me, even though that shouldn't be possible, I think, because it's not like brighter than everything else, it just seems that way. But it was very effective use of weather, actually. And here you see, this is a kind of car I'm not very comfortable with. Maybe it's also the track, I don't know, but holy crap, that's this kind of car I can barely control. It's super fast, and that's cool. It goes into super speed in a few seconds, but yeah, brakes nowhere to be found. Or I would have to brake a lot earlier than normal, so yeah, there we go. That's kind of the thing I meant about you need to learn how to drive these cars. This car behaves so much different than all the other cars I drove. You really have to brake very early, you have to you have to very be careful when you start to brake. Do you use the handbrake or not? And it is very difficult, and it has a learning curve to it. But that's good. actually really good. And as far as I know, there is no like tuning, as in, for example, I think in Gran Turismo you could tune your car to make it faster and stuff, which helped you in races to beat the AI basically. But here there's no such thing. Everyone has basically the same chance. Therefore, it's pure player skill that basically makes this game happen. And that is very cool. That's something I can respect. Alright, let's check out another type of race and also the options you have, because these are quite interesting. So you can choose different circuits. There's also some tracks which are like one way only, where you just drive from point A to point B. And now we're gonna go for like a super heavy, amazing fast car. And now I'm gonna play a bit with the settings. You can change here. You can change like laps, how many laps you want to drive. There's up to 99 laps, which is quite excessive, I might say, but yeah. There's a session start time, so you can drive in the dark if you want to. Season, which is also very cool, and weather slots. This is kind of interesting, so I put on four weather slots. I didn't quite know what that means. But here's the weather you can change. There's a whole lot of different weather, like from sunny, cloudy, thunderstorms, heavy wind. I go for snow, I just want to see how it looks. And yeah, let's just say it's very intimidating, to say the least, especially at night. Alright, here we are, and the thing is now, if I'm looking at the footage alone, it does not look that bad, but I can guarantee you, if you are in VR and you're looking at this snowstorm coming at you, it's very intimidating because you can barely see stuff. Also, like again, different car, different handling. This car is amazing. And I scored first in this race, and holy hell, I mean, this car was crazy fast and it handled like a charm. And here you can see like I'm pushing people out of the way, and race control does not give a damn. So I'm really not quite sure what triggers race control or what not. Also, what's kind of interesting is the different HUDs, of course, you'll have. I mean, there's like the normal cars where you just have your normal gauges and the mirrors and stuff. And look at this beast. What are these buttons doing? I have no idea. I don't even have an idea what these blinking lights at the top of the steering wheel are for. I just don't know. But again, this has been very enjoyable, especially this race was really cool. Like the snow, the speed at which I was driving, and yeah, it's just a feeling you get when you're sitting in a car like that. It's amazing. And you can also, you can look around, you can use like your mirrors to check things, and it's really quite cool what you can do. And now we're going to jump into the last custom race, which will showcase you something very interesting, which is changing weather during a race. So this race we start off, this is actually like a normal BMW, like a car you would find on the streets as well. And now we're starting the race with sunny weather, right? So looks quite cool. I quickly noticed that again, this car is not optimally in my wheelhouse. I need to train with these cars a bit more. But yeah, so it's sunny, it's beautiful, and then a few minutes later, suddenly your crew says over the radio, "Hey, there's a weather update coming. We'll keep you posted," right?
We're expecting some wet weather any minute now. We'll keep you posted.
And then suddenly, a few minutes later, it gets cloudy and it starts to rain. Just like little drizzle, no worries. And I thought, yeah, okay, this is gonna be interesting now. The road is gonna be wet and it's gonna be terrible. And lo and behold, a few minutes later, it's getting darker and darker. The rain is getting heavier, and as the race progresses, the rain is getting heavier and heavier, and it's getting foggy. And I have to say it like that. It was becoming scary, because at the end of that race I didn't see like maybe 10 meters or something like that. I'm so like 20 meters of sight and everything else you had to guess. Sometimes you saw like the brake lights from the cars in front of you, but you couldn't see shit. And again, that was scary. I mean, there was so much rain. I mean, your window wipers could barely keep up. And if you were behind a car, just the amount of water they would like produce by driving in front of you, the water that sprays out, sometimes it completely took your sight. And the thing is, I gradually became worse and worse as badder the weather became. So that is my excuse, at least, that I finished this race like on the second last place, because I started out like in third place or something, and then as the weather became worse, I started to slip around the track and crash into things. It was pretty amazing. But yeah, that's a kind of cool thing, that it can actually change weather during a race. And this is especially, I think, important for like very long races where you have pit stops and stuff, which this means if there's rain coming, you might go to the pit and change your tires and things like that. So that is really cool. There's a lot of interesting mechanics in this game, and just graphically speaking, it's very intense for me. I don't think it's at the top of graphics when it comes to games, but I have to say it was very convincing to me. So I really felt like driving. I felt like I was inside a car. It was amazing. There were some FPS issues every once in a while, but I don't think that's the game itself. The FPS issues mainly came up in the heavy weather, and that makes sense for me, because there's a lot of stuff happening on the screen. And even though I have a good graphic card, I'm not at the maximum capacity when it comes to graphical power, of course. I mean, you could go for SLI, and then you would probably be able to play this in a like 60 to 100 FPS like constantly. And for me, it dipped a bit below 60 every once in a while, especially in the heavy weather. But it is fine. I wouldn't attribute this to the game and say it's bad or anything like that. I think the game was pretty good. It was well done, and I'm probably gonna play more of that. Now the question is it worth the price? Let me look up the price real quick. Of course, this the price I'm gonna tell you is the my local prices, which are in Swiss francs, obviously. Alright, for me it was 60 Swiss francs, which, if we do a very, very rough translation, that's maybe about $50-60, and that's a lot for a VR game, of course, if you think about it. But the amount of content you're getting is quite amazing. I mean, you saw there were like, I don't know, like 12, 15 race leagues, so to speak, and each of these leagues potentially has one or more, or most of the time, I guess, two or more different kind of sub-leagues which you can participate in. There's online play, obviously, which you can participate in as well. So there's a lot of content, and there are a ton of cars for you to try out, and very different cars as well. So there's 180 plus cars, and they're licensed, they're iconic, so they're not like random cars with like fantasy names, they're the actual cars. And therefore I think it is kind of worth it. And of course the other cool thing is you can play this without VR as well. So that is kind of a smart strategy, I think, from them, that they actually went for a VR game that you can also play easily without VR. Or I don't know, maybe at one day you're just too lazy to get the VR goggles and stuff, and you just want to play it like that. You can do that too. So that's, I think, a very good thing, something that speaks for this game. So yeah, I think this is a very good game. Again, it's difficult, so if you're easily frustrated, or if you expect like an arcade racer, then no, that's not the game for you. That's definitely not your game. It's more for the simulation crowd that wants a real racer, that cars behave realistically, and I think they do. I cannot really tell because I don't drive a car in real life, But to me it felt very, very intense, and you had to be on top of your game to actually get around the tracks. So I would say yes, they behave quite realistically. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it per se, because I haven't played it enough to actually give you like a full recommendation, but it is an interesting game, that's for sure. And you can see that it's a AAA VR game. There is quality all over this. There's a lot more content than in your average VR game, so yeah, I think it kind of deserves the price tag, and so far I had fun with it. I probably will play this actually some more, not like a lot of other VR games, I have to say. So maybe I'll give you an update a bit later when I actually play this some more and maybe got some success in it. Who knows, right? Alright, thank you for watching VR Sunday. I've been Shadow, and I'll see you next time.